My name is Tariq. I was a staunch defender of Sharia law, my life's compass, the unyielding framework that defined my identity, my career, and my very essence. For years, I navigated the corridors of legal institutions with a sense of certainty. But beneath this facade lay whispers of doubt, murmurs that refused to be silenced. And so began a journey I never anticipated, a journey that would question everything I held dear, ignited by a single verse from a book I had scarcely considered. The Bible. As I drove home through Cairo's bustling streets after a lecture on societal norms and law, reality itself seemed to fracture. A swift, unforgiving crash thrust me into a realm beyond mortal comprehension, a near-death experience that unveiled more than I bargained for. In a boundless space where shadows danced with light, Jesus emerged, his presence both commanding and reassuring. What ensued in that ethereal plane was a revelation that dismantled my convictions and laid bare the spiritual war underpinning worldly conflicts. In the presence of Jesus, I glimpsed truths carefully hidden from the human eye. They spoke of a world controlled by unseen puppet masters, elites who profited from wars not just of territory and power, but of the spirit. Political divisions, societal squabbles, all distractions orchestrated to lull humanity into a false sense of unawareness. Every revelation pierced my core like a beacon, illuminating the path of deception I had unwittingly walked. The urgency was palpable. Jesus revealed a future where technology threatened the very fabric of human connection, a future where society teetered on the brink of relinquishing its autonomy to artificial interactions. He warned of spiritual deceptions woven into the world's political and social structures, agendas sheltered by those flourishing in secrecy. This knowledge was not mine to hoard, but a call to wake others before it was too late. As the vision faded, drawing me back into the mortal realm, I knew my life could never revert to the ordinary. Clarity burned brightly within, accompanied by a pressing responsibility to share these truths. Yet, how does one bridge this divine unveiling with a world steeped in earthly concerns? This is just the beginning, a prologue to an awakening that transcends personal revelation, promising profound transformation for those willing to see. Before diving deeper, I'd love to know, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Your answers matter because the truth we unveil here is reaching far and wide. If you feel the tremors of awakening, if you're starting to see through the fog, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Don't miss the next chapter of Revelations that promise to illuminate paths yet unseen. I've dedicated my entire life to the principles of Sharia. It was the unshakable foundation upon which I built my identity, my career, and my sense of self-worth. But despite outward appearances, there was a persistent disquiet in my soul, a whispering doubt gnawing at me from the shadows. This intellectual prestige, this life sculpted around the tenets of law and order, felt, over time, like an echoing hollow, devoid of something profoundly spiritual. It was in this buried emptiness that my journey began, a journey I didn't see coming. That night lingered as if suspended in time. I was returning home from a lecture on the tightly interwoven strands of societal norms and law, my car gliding over Cairo's bustling streets when the world around me seemed to shatter. The crash was swift, merciless, and like a thief in the night, it dragged me into a realm beyond our mortal coil. Darkness swallowed me whole, and as my consciousness ebbed, the edges of reality began to blur. What ensued was a near-death experience, otherworldly and all-consuming. I found myself in a boundless space where light danced with shadows, and then, out of that luminous mist, came Jesus, solemn yet welcoming. His presence was overwhelming, both terrifying and calming. There I stood in this ethereal plane as he revealed truths that shattered long-held convictions. It was as though my soul was being unshackled from layers of deception. In that revelation, I saw a world of hidden agendas where elites manipulated the threads of society like puppeteers. Wars weren't just about territory or power. They were spiritual wars, manifestations of something far more insidious. The divisions among us, the petty squabbles, distractions orchestrated to keep humanity asleep, oblivious to a looming awakening. Each revelation was like a sword piercing through my core, truths that struck at the very heart of what I believed to be unassailable. Jesus spoke of a tech-laden future where human connection would deteriorate, a society ensnared in a web of artificial interactions. These advancements, he warned, were double-edged tools that could either liberate or enslave. Spiritual deception had seeped into the very fabric of the world, woven into politics and society by those who thrived in secrecy. This awakening I was privy to was not just for enlightening myself, but for illuminating the path for others before it was too late. The vision was relentless, each scene more unsettling than the last. Leaders, garbed in the guise of shepherds, but in reality, wolves with hidden agendas. This sacred journey pushed me to question everything I held dear. In this space beyond time, away from the constructs of my legal background, the essence of my being was laid bare. The teachings that I had held as gospel were pieces of a grand deception, structures built to control, to limit the very freedom I now tasted in this limitless realm. Yet, as the encounter with Jesus neared its conclusion, there was a profound sense of urgency. It became clear that this knowledge wasn't for my solace alone, but a rallying cry to awaken others. I glimpsed the potential paths our world could take, the spiritual war raging just beneath the surface. With each revelation, the tension within me grew, a realization that there was still much more to unravel. As the vision began to fade, drawing me back to the living world, I was left teetering on the precipice of an awakening, caught between worlds, clutching at fragments of divine truth that demanded to be shared. I used to be an ordinary man, a professional who placed great stock in engineering and the principles of design and logic. I'd spent decades constructing things people used every day, buildings towering with assurance over the urban landscape. I had a family, a wife, who supported me, albeit from a distance when my work took precedence, and children who relied on me to keep the stability intact. Life was predictable, a rhythm familiar and comforting, or so it seemed. But one unsuspecting afternoon, the veneer cracked open unexpectedly. I found myself on a site, reviewing the final details of a project nearing completion, when disaster struck. A freak. Accident that betrayed the laws of physics I knew so well. A steel beam, unrelenting and merciless, descended with lethal force. What could have been merely a grievous injury swiftly warped into something beyond human reckoning. The moment of impact stretched into an eternity of silence, and in the breath between life's hold and the descent into the unknown, I transcended the corporeal realm. Suspended in a place devoid of time, I was confronted with a presence powerful, arresting in its immensity. Jesus stood before me, eyes aflame with an intensity I'd never witnessed, conveying profound truths without utterance. It was a commanding encounter, an intervention that shattered every barrier of skepticism I held. The vision's lucidity was astonishing, each revelation sharpening into vivid focus. I was swept into a divine narrative, rendered almost helpless before the cascading truths, visions of humanity ensnared in conflict, a spiritual war that transcended the battlegrounds. Visible to the naked eye, layers of reality were peeled away, revealing sinister machinations at play, an elite consortium manipulating strings stealthily yet decisively. This clandestine network mapped global dynamics, weaving a tapestry of chaos and control manipulated to fulfill a hidden agenda that served only the few. Jesus revealed a dystopian reality hidden in the ordinary, sermonizing not with condemnation, but with an urgency to awaken my consciousness. I saw nations torn by war, leaders entranced by the allure of unchecked power, their greed erecting monuments to deception and control. The world lay divided, not merely by borders, but by ideologies fed by the ever-hungry maw of disinformation. Society's fabric had become threadbare, its once lustrous design deteriorated by divisive ploys engineered to perpetuate an illusory truth. People's lives were being orchestrated, unsuspecting pawns on a chessboard where the elite pitted sibling against sibling, all for conquest not easily perceived. Caught in this kaleidoscope of revelation, I wrestled with the unfurling branding the horizon of humanity's path, a godless future sculpted by artificial intelligence mastering subservience, technology skewed not for progress, but submission. It wasn't just about controlling resources, it was an age of soul enslavement where freedom was a forgotten relic. Leaders served not the people, but fed the machine of perpetual imbalance and fear. Humanity, blinded by its hubris, had inadvertently stumbled into a labyrinth engineered generations ago, blinded by the fog of deception. The awakening stood stark against this backdrop of engineered chaos, a call to action weaving through the divine urgency radiating from Jesus. Understanding boiled over, bubbling to the surface of my consciousness with the message to heed. But just as I endeavored to grasp the entire truth, the scene faded, like fog lifting with the dawn. As I lay on the hospital bed, bruised and battered by the weight of the revelations, clarity loomed over my soul. The memory of that divine encounter, the encounter that transcended mortal understanding, was etched with divine precision into my being. Weak and vulnerable, yet more alive than ever, the world remained unchanged externally, but internally, a transformation was ignited. Questions, once lingering at the periphery, now dominated my thoughts. I grasped a shred of truth that could not be held in silence. How could I merge this divine, unveiling with a daily routine steeped in earthly concerns? As I faced my family, colleagues, and familiar reality once again, the depth of what was shown to me compelled a continuation. But how could others discern the gravity of this if their eyes were wide shut? I knew the road ahead was fraught with challenges, yet a newfound resolve propelled me forward with the urgency only devout awareness could attest. In that moment of reflection, tangled between past beliefs and the revelations ahead, I acknowledged an invisible burden placed upon me. The puzzle was incomplete, and my role in unraveling the mystery was only just beginning. I couldn't clearly see how yet, or even when, but I knew I'd been irrevocably called to partake in a journey perilous and enlightening, an awakening larger than the confines of my understanding. Would humanity rise to meet the challenge, comprehend the deception, or remain sequestered in ignorance? These questions loomed larger with each passing day. And it was in this tenuous balance, at this pivotal juncture, that my tireless pursuit for truth began anew, driven by revelations too significant to ignore as I ventured on, still yearning to piece together the thread unspooled from the hands of the divine. I'm an engineer by trade, and for nearly half a century, I've lived my life defined by the steel fabric of logic and the cold comfort of certainty. I've always believed that the world could be quantified, that every problem had a precise solution. If only one could uncover the right equation. A heart attack was not in my calculations. One moment I was busy constructing the framework of an ambitious project, and the next, my heart seized with a grip of iron, sending shockwaves of pain ricocheting through my chest and down into my soul. As darkness descended, it seemed like the end of everything I'd known. Yet, somewhere beyond the veil of my collapse, I found myself in a realm unfamiliar, unspeakably vast, but strikingly intimate. It was here, amidst the formless shadows of my own consciousness, that I encountered him, Jesus. His presence radiated authority and compassion, both gentle and insistent, striking chords within me that resonated with the depth of mountains and the expanse of seas. In his eyes I saw no judgment, only an invitation to see a truth I had long ignored. My life, constructed around laws and dogmas, was laid bare with an unsettling clarity. "You knew the law," Jesus said, his voice a balm to my troubled mind. "But did you know me? Did you seek the truth?" The vision that unfolded was that of a balance. On one side rested my life's careful arguments, my devotion to laws and rituals. On the other, a cross luminous with an incandescent light that tore through the fabric of fabricated truths I had clothed myself with. It was more overpowering than any algorithm, more profound than the sum of all logic I had engineered. With every truth revealed came a revelation of the world's hidden agendas, a chilling prophecy of spiritual war stitching dark threads through the fabric of politics and power. Like a silent spectator, I watched nations clash at the whims of an unseen elite, their strings tugged by hands unseen but unmistakably felt. Conspiracies intricately woven into the highest echelons of society were laid bare before me, leaders whose faces I recognized now cast in shadowed roles of deception. War was not merely a clash of nations, but a manifestation of a deeper spiritual conflict. The technologies I had so fervently advocated for now loomed with ominous potential, poised to eclipse human understanding and morality, crafting a world where truth was but a whispered relic of the past. In this metaphysical arena, thoughts and prayers seemed to arm themselves as mighty warriors, battling against the unseen tendrils of deceit that threatened to engulf humanity. This glimpse into the tapestry of a world's deceptions left me shaken, my certainties shattered. Yet, amidst the looming shadows and sinister revelations, I found a beacon of hope in the promise of grace. Forgiveness awaited beyond the boundaries of rigid doctrine and self-imposed blindness. My skin shivered in the warmth of new beginnings, a second chance to awaken, and as my vision dimmed, urgency flared in my chest. The path ahead lay obscured in whispers and half-formed truths. As my consciousness slipped back into the fractured reality of my making, with the silent echo of Jesus' revelations hanging like a question mark in the darkness, I opened my eyes to the cacophony of emergency, the distant wail of sirens reaching my ears like a requiem for the life I once knew. I never imagined life's fragile nature when each day passed like clockwork in the cab of my truck, hauling loads across the country, my mind tethered purely to logistics and the horizon ahead. I'd been on the road for over 2 decades, a modern-day nomad, entrenched in the rhythm of rubber against asphalt. The miles stacked up, as did my bills, concerns far removed from anything beyond the tangible. It was on a particularly long haul through the vast, open stretches of Nebraska when the semblance of security unraveled. It began like any other trip, dense fog settling in, cloaking the road in a shroud of mystery. I was no stranger to such conditions, but this time the mist felt different, almost sentient in its encroachment. As I maneuvered through the obscurity, a deer materialized from nothingness, an apparition caught in the beam of my headlights. Instincts kicked in as I swerved, avoiding the creature, but not the fate awaiting me. Metal crunched against metal as my world spun out of control. The impact hurled me into a void, a timeless place devoid of pain or panic. I wasn't alone. In that silence, a figure emerged, neither ghostly nor solid, but radiant and commanding. Jesus stood before me, his presence filling this ethereal space with an unmistakable gravity. There was no need for words. His gaze alone conveyed universes. In an instant, he unraveled my perception, revealing the twisted tapestry of the world I'd known. He spoke not in sound, but through a profound understanding that settled within me. Political truths, societal deceptions, unfolded like scrolls. I saw the machinations of an elite class, their agendas hidden beneath veils of prosperity and control. I watched as threads of manipulation spun through media, education, entwining lives in complacency and conflict, a war unbeknownst to most. The visions shifted, presenting scenes of global turmoil, angry protests burning under fiery skies, leaders with tongues dripping honeyed poison, their intentions masked behind smiles. I witnessed technology's tendrils reaching deeper, its promises of connection overshadowed by the eerie desolation of true isolation. Humanity, divided by screens and ideologies, starved of genuine connection, the illusion of progress cloaking an underlying decay. Jesus continued, his revelations piercing. Through preconceptions, the urgency of his message resonating in every fiber of my being. He spoke of a battle unseen, of souls ensnared in a spiritual war raging beneath quotidian life. The truth was as terrifying as it was liberating, a stark awakening that ignited something dormant within me. His final message lingered, heavier than the fog that had taken me, of choices and changes, a call to rise against the shadows clinging to the world, the understanding that the awakening was not an endpoint, but a beginning settled deep with me. As the visions faded, I found myself back on the highway's edge, the hum of life returning, contrasting bizarrely with the profound quiet of moments before. The road remained the same, yet everything felt altered. The cab pulsed with the echoes of revelation as I sat, heart pounding, vision blurred not by tears, but by an overwhelming clarity. Those truths impossible to dismiss, and the choice was now mine, to remain in ignorance, blissfully dormant, or to embrace the mantle of this newfound knowledge, bracing for the storms such truth would surely conjure. Regaining consciousness felt like ripping through layers of illusion, the tangible world jarring and alien. Hospital lights above flickered in sterile defiance to the serene luminosity of Jesus' presence. Pressure weighed down my limbs, each breath laden with the magnitude of what I'd been shown. It wasn't just knowledge, it was a mandate, compelling and inescapable. But reality's demands were harsh, skepticism a constant companion. As I recounted what I'd witnessed, faces around me twisted with incredulity, eyes searching mine for signs of madness or truth. I was solitary in this understanding, a custodian of a revelation perceived as delirium by minds shackled to the mundane. Yet, despite their doubt, within me burned a resolve as fierce as the light I'd touched. The journey wasn't to be walked alone, and though my story finds its pause here, the path ahead promises uncharted. Lands where silence holds its court, waiting for the voice of the awakened to narrate its reality. I'm an ordinary man, an engineer who once found comfort in the precision of mathematics and the predictability of physics. My life followed a logical path, devoid of the unknown and complex intricacies of belief. That was until a dramatic event thrust me into an unforeseen reality. It happened one uneventful afternoon while driving home from a conference. Out of nowhere, a large truck appeared. Its impact with my car as violent as it was sudden. The world turned to metal and glass explosions, and then silence ensued, a blackout blanketing me in its dark, weightless embrace. Within this void, something extraordinary occurred. I stood in a realm transcending the physical, where time and space fumbled in irrelevance. It was there that I encountered him, Jesus, not as a figure from folklore, but as a presence pulsating with peace and truth. In this space beyond earthly comprehension, what unfolded was an enlightening near-death experience, a tapestry of revelations woven with stunning clarity. Jesus communicated without words, yet his message resonated, stirring the deepest currents of my soul. The world as I knew it began to peel away, layers of deception and facade unraveling. I saw flashes, vivid visions of conflict, a spiritual war raging unseen. Leaders, obscure behind masks, played out their schemes, bound by hidden agendas that entangled humanity in their puppetry. The elite were not merely mortal figureheads, but entities orchestrating from the shadows, weaving narratives of division, cloaking truth in veils of deceit. It was a revelation of forces intensely real, manipulating society's very foundation, steering destinies while evoking fear and discord. Then came the revelation, unsettling yet inevitable. Jesus pulled back the curtain on an ancient conspiracy, one binding itself around the progress we cherish, technology. Instead of uniting us, it stood, revealed as a control mechanism, a tool of distraction, blurring the lines of spiritual clarity. The truth was astounding, a deception so well crafted few noticed its entanglement in everyday life. The elite's influence seeped like ink, crafting a narrative that muffled higher understanding. Amidst this web of manipulation, something else stirred. A wake-up call, a chance for awakening that simmered beneath the distractions. An awakening possible for those bold enough to question the reality. Served to them, a path leading to clarity and purpose amid chaos. Returning from the brink, I carried back more than memory. I was burdened with mission and truth. My life, once sculpted by engineering blueprints, now seemed destined for an incomprehensibly larger design. Jesus had not only beckoned belief, but had pierced through my rational defenses, urging action. I found solace among others touched by similar truths, kindred spirits lurking beneath the societal veneer, raising voices in clandestine gatherings, whispering shared tales, constructing bridges in a sea of division. In these hidden exchanges, the weight of my experience became clear, a nudge towards a beginning, toward hope and urgency in a world rife with spiritual possibilities. The enormity of what I've witnessed continues to weigh heavily. How does one articulate a vision as consuming as it is vast? The world appears transformed, painted in vivid hues that evoke equal parts vibrancy and darkness. This urgency clings, a shadow whispering day and night, urging me forward, to name and reveal the unseen layers of our world. Yet, how does one convey revelations so intricate without sounding insane, without getting lost in their vastness? I turn to my faith, newly minted, yet profoundly grounding, seeking comfort and strength as I tread this path of hidden truths and revelations. The journey forward remains murky, yet compelling. A silent murmur echoes in the depths of the night, hinting at the next chapter that lies, expectant, in the unfolding unknown. Now that my story has unfolded before you, I must leave you with a question, one that pierces through the veil of daily existence. Have you ever sensed, even if fleetingly, that our world teeters on the cusp of a profound revelation? That beneath the surface of our routines, a deeper, unfathomable truth awaits discovery? Because it does. My near-death experience shattered the illusion of the life I once knew, exposing a reality orchestrated by unseen hands. The narrative I shared isn't just a testimony, it is a call to awareness, a stark reminder that we are engaged in a spiritual struggle, a battle beyond mere flesh and blood. We stand on the threshold of an awakening, tasked with choosing whether to remain blind or dare to see. And so, I urge you, have you ever felt the stirrings of something greater? A sign or moment that compelled you to question the structure of your world? Share your story in the comments. Let us build this community of seekers, a sanctuary of shared revelations, united and vigilant. As I embark further down this path, illuminated by newfound truths, I invite you to come along. Subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit the notification bell, ensuring you stay abreast of revelations that continue to unfold. Together, we will peel back the layers of the world we thought we understood, uncovering the extraordinary beneath the mundane. In the next chapter, we dive deeper. A powerful testimony awaits where another soul experiences an encounter that challenges everything. I am Tariq, and I thank you for journeying with me to the brink of this extraordinary revelation. Remember, the truth is out there, waiting for those with eyes to see.